Well, to me, Thai massage is everything. I think that oil massage, holistic massage, for me, it's a little bit more like I want somebody to touch me and be nice to me and soothe me. Whereas Thai massage for me is deeply, deeply healing.
What a treat we have for you today. We are going to be talking with Felicity Joy, and Felicity Joy has been studying and giving and teaching Thai massage in some form for almost 30 years, many of that in Thailand, and she is a storyteller. She is so gifted at sharing really the heart of this practice. So many great stories coming up, and I decided to divide it up into 3 parts. So in this first part, you are going to be hearing really what Thai massage was like for her to learn it and what it was like to give it and be in Thailand and in London in the late 80s and throughout the 90s. And then in part 2, she really gets into such a beautiful, beautiful way of sharing the meaning behind this practice and how it transforms people individually, but also a culture and a society, and what it really is like to live in a place where Thai massage is just simply part of the flow of life and how that brings people together. And then in the last part, you get to find out more about her specialty these days. She's taught so many different kinds of things, but right now her specialty is abdominal massage, and we're going to dive deep into all of that, and that is coming right up.
More of us that link together, the better, she says, taking over the interview. But I keep, like, while I'm here in London, I'm going out to some of these far out places where people have been operating with their studio and their community, and they've got a little great thing going on. And I want to start to link people up and say, yeah, that's brilliant. Do you want to study more? Because I know she looks after that section of birth and stuff. And this guy's really great at neck issues. And, let's start to move some of this information around.
Well, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I feel like that's exactly what's been inspiring me to talk with you, to interview different teachers and just get to learn more about what is going around beyond my little bubble and my world, and connect and bring people together and really have some dialogue and conversation and hopefully more exposure into some of the great things that are happening with Thai massage. And
if I think about when I started, there was nothing. There was nothing. It was back in the day where there was literally, people would ring up and they'd say, I want Thai massage. You go, okay, sure. What time would you like to have a booking? And they'd say, you don't sound Thai. It's like, I'm not Thai. They say, oh, but okay, here's the thing. I want like a small, beautiful Thai girl about 20 to 30. It's like, well, you know what? I'm a big fat Australian woman and I'm about 40. Perhaps you'd have me instead. It won't be that much fun, and don't expect to be happy at the end. And now it's just a bit mental.
Right. Of course. Now it's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Okay. So, my very first question is, so your name that you want me to call you by, like, if I'm going to have an intro, a little introduction at the beginning, is Felicity Joy or Felicity or?
Yeah, that's also part of the Thai thing, is that when I got to Thailand, nobody could say Felicity in those days because there wasn't a word like it even. The closest word they had was philosophy. And philosophy is really hard for Thai people to say. Just in the same way that like a word like is like super hard for us to say. Like we don't, and that means money, for God's sake. So with Thai people, it was super hard. And Jack would not call me, he didn't call me any name at all. He called me lady. And it really annoyed me. And it was at the time when Frechette he'd say, what's that person's name? And go, oh, this one called last week. It's like, why that one called last week? Them come last week. It's like, okay. That one called chicken because them always eat chicken. And so then I said, why won't you say my name? And he said, oh, no, this is a bad name. And I said, why is it a bad name? And he said, I did the letter and it means to have a beautiful house, but to leave the door open. And I'm like, oh, that's a good thing. He said, no, because everybody take everything from you. So It's like, okay. And then he said, what do it mean? And I said, it means joy. It means happiness and joy. And he said, oh, Joy, very good name. And then that was it. And so he started calling me Joy. So then everybody else started calling me Joy. So then I ended up with these two names in Thailand. So I had people calling me Felicity and people calling me Joy. So I just glued them together.
Okay. That's perfect. I love that story. So why don't you talk about your connection? So tell us about Pisha. Who's Pisha?
Pishet is somebody that if you ever come to northern Thailand, he's one of the masters that you can get access to and you can get trainings from. Pishet I met in the late 80s in Chiang Mai, and he worked at the Old Medicine Hospital. And it was right at the time, the Old Medicine Hospital, which was the only place you could study Thai massage in the 80s. It was an actual hospital, and it was a really proper hospital. So when you turn up to school, there'd be all the patients waiting out front of the hospital, and they'd have baskets of things like baskets of vegetables or perhaps chicken under their arm or some eggs or something, because not a lot of people had money. The Thai baht was very, very low. People didn't have cash to exchange, so they brought food. So you turn up at the Old Medicine Hospital. And in those days, they didn't really have a manual, and you didn't study in the way that you've got a book and you do sections. You turn up, you do some theory in the morning, which was sen lines, and what sen lines did and where they ran, how to work a sen. And then in the afternoon, a teacher or one of the therapists would come down and they would choose you. And then you would go and they'd show you the patient and they'd explain what was wrong with the patient. Normally not in English because they couldn't speak it, but they'd show you by touching where to press, how to work it, if you need to put a block in so that you could work a little bit deeper. And so that your teacher would show you, and then you would do it, and then you do it and do it and do it. And this is basically how you learn. And so once you'd finish with that one, then you go on to the next sick person. And so it was a really interesting way to study. And I was very lucky at the time because two of the teachers really liked me. And one was Prashat, who's now one of the main masters you get access to. And the other one was a guy called Shayuth, who was a very spiritual practitioner, very different way of working. So I kind of got taken under Prashat's wing and learned a fairly... Basically, we're pretty much doing all the same styles. I know we call it Southern style and Northern style, but it's pretty much all the same, which is kind of Wat Po style. That's the typical basis of all the education that comes into the West. Shoyut became very different because he was a spiritual practitioner, and so he worked a lot with channeling spirit deities, lots of prayer, lots of worship, and whereas Prashet was much more specific about how you move, how to have really good body mechanics, how to work with using the least amount of energy to get the greatest effect so that you had the capacity to work for 12 hours, 5 or 6 days a week, which is more typical of how Thai people work. So if you're working in a massage shop, they call it, which is pretty funny also, because you think of shops as being retail, but in Thailand everything's a shop, there's an exchange of money. So those people it's typical they work a 6.5 day week. And if you're a massage therapist, you start at 9 and you finish at 10. You work all day.
Okay.
So, you have to learn, when you work like that, you have to learn how to be very, very precise with your body, because it's too easy to get injured if you're not like absolutely straight, that you're sinking absolutely correctly. If you're trying to carry too much weight or move when you're not grounded and you're not in a proper lunge, you're not going to last very long. So Prishet was one of the people who was able to take this kind of official way that we do Thai massage and make it really into the detail of being absolutely precise with your body. And his system, I like it so much because at the beginning of your practice, you do need to get a lot of massages under your belt. And the more massage you can do, I mean, I know in my practice that the first 100 massages, I was hopeless. Um,
Mhm.
Up to the next 1,000, I kind of got okay. Um, by the time I got to 5,000, I was good. 5 to 10,000, I could not make a mistake. You know,
Wow.
I literally could touch people. I wouldn't remember their names, and then I'd hold on to their feet, and I hadn't seen the client in 10 years, and I hold the feet, and I go, I know everything about you. I know when your marriage broke up. I know all your stories. I know why your feet are internally rotated. I know about your child who's autistic, because once you develop that touch, your memory is not this guy here. Your memory is this here.
Hmm.
Um, and that's doing it a lot, really, just doing it and doing it and doing it again. And I know that also when I first began, I was also quite lucky in that Thai massage was not particularly well known, and it was all a bit tied up in prostitution and such. So when you came back to the West and said you're a Thai massage therapist, it didn't have the status that, say, shiatsu does.
Hmm.
And so you'd often come into difficulties and confusions with clients imagining they were going to have something different than what they were going to receive. Um, and so where I worked, I would work back-to-back shifts. And I think we worked a 12-hour shift.
And this is in Thailand, or this is in?
This was in London.
Okay.
London. You do a 12-hour shift. You start at 6 o'clock at night. You work through till 6 o'clock in the morning, and you used to make £5 an hour.
Wow. Where was,
And
like, in a Thai massage shop, as you called it, or like in a Thai massage,
we didn't have massage places. What you would have was you'd have spas that were kind of, they call them naturist centers. So they were basically a spa that
Hmm.
stayed open 24 hours. And so they'd have massage therapists on one level, then you'd have jacuzzis, steam rooms, saunas, relaxation rooms on another level. And these places kind of run 24 hours a day. I don't know
Okay.
if you've ever been to Chicago, there's one called King's Spa, and it's the greatest place in the world. It's like the
Mhm.
mecca for massage therapists, because it's got salt rooms and charcoal rooms, and just it's an amazing
Wow.
place.
Okay.
Um, but so when I got back from Thailand in the 80s and started training, this was the only work I could get. We didn't have even sports injury massage didn't really exist in England.
Hmm.
Um, so you were really limited to the places that you're allowed to, where you could work and make some money.
Right.
And so what happened for me is I started doing the Thai massage, and nobody else did that. Everybody else did holistic massage. So I'd have my mat downstairs, and I'd have to put them into Thai massage pants when they'd arrive, and I would work all night. And I was the most popular therapist within about 3 months, because people couldn't believe what Thai massage could do. So if
So
you
why
come up,
don't why don't you
sorry.
just talk a little bit there about what can it do?
Well, to me, Thai massage is everything. I think that oil massage, holistic massage, for me, it's a little bit more like I want somebody to touch me and be nice to me and soothe me. Whereas Thai massage for me is deeply, deeply healing, because the amount that we're able to move the body, I mean, just on a physical level, these stretches that we do, these deep stretches, the fact that we work joints all the way through their full rotations when we're working. We're doing these compressions into the body, so we're moving toxicity out of muscles. The compressions and rotations, and it's just that much deeper into the body. Bending people backwards, bringing them forwards, getting really good articulation in all the joints and all the way through the spine. When people, I've never had anybody come off a Thai massage and say, I feel terrible. They always come and go, you know what, that's, wow, that's great. You know, the funny thing is though, like I've got all these problems and I've got all this stuff I have to do, and you know what, I've still got that, but it just doesn't feel like it's on me. I feel like I've got a clear path, and you won't have talked about their problems. It's just that by lifting off some of this funk of energy, which isn't working effectively, you don't have the drama attached to your stuff or something. So
Right.
that just, it's cleaner to be able to do your life. And I think a lot of this is because, that we all know the principle that the body always wants to come to balance. It always wants to be in a healthy state. It's kind of us that gets in the way of ourselves, allowing ourselves to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
You might be feeling good, but you think, I better have a Magnum ice cream because I'm going to feel better. And it's like, oh, no, you just put a load of chemicals and sugar and fat. And for 30 seconds, you're going to feel great because you're high now.
Right.
But once you come off that, you're going to feel awful. Whereas Thai massage seems to, and also because of the nature of the sen, by triggering the sen, and we can get the sen starting to move and interact with each other.
Sen meaning energy.
Energy lines, yes. And once we get all the energy flowing effectively, then the body can operate like a whole. And I also think these days, to survive in the West, we frequently cut ourselves into pieces. Like I'm a brain right now because my boss needs me to be a brain. So my body is irrelevant. If I need to go and have a wee-wee, I'm going to wait because my boss needs me to be a brain. And I should be having my lunch and a lovely walk outside. But you know what, I'm going to cut that short and I'll be back in time and I'll do what I'm expected to do. So now I'm being ahead.
Right.
Or other people who just work with their hands. I mean, working in a factory. I'm not a brain. I have to close that thing off because if I start thinking about my life, I'm not going to be wanting to look at that going past me. So all I can be is this. So I think in life, we often, when we're not completely happy with everything, we cut ourselves into pieces. And because it's such a full massage that we do, and because it's clothed, I think makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Because with clothes, we feel very safe to be able to, like I'm not really going to want to put my toe in my ear if I haven't got my undies on. That gives us confidence to be like, I can be free. I think also the clothes make a difference because you can be terribly intimate with somebody without it becoming sexually intimate.
Right.
So you can sit very close to people and you can perhaps be a little bit too close to the inner thigh or around the breast. But because you've got your clothes on, it's okay and you're safe. And so that also means when somebody's pushing you in a way where maybe this hurts a little bit, you still feel safe enough to go, oh, this person's been really nice and their hands are really soft and I know this really hurts. I'm just going to relax and allow them to help me. And then lo and behold, this thing is free.
Mm-hmm.
There's these, I don't think it was psychologically thought out like that, but I think that's really the progression that you get from receiving the work.
It's amazing, to talk to someone who's given, at least 10,000 massages, clearly you know what you're talking about. I mean, it's beautiful. And you've been doing this since the 80s, the late 80s is what it sounds like.
Yes.
And then what about teaching? When did teaching come?
Well, I love, and you know what's really ridiculous? I also worked for nearly 10 years from doing the one course at the old medicine hospital and then repeating it a couple of months later. And my entire practice was based on 2 courses. I mean, I did have excellent education, and I did get some bump ups, but I didn't really learn anything much more besides what I'd done on those courses because there was so much for me to extract from the work.
And actually, let's just stop there even because I was pretty amazed when you said you learned in a way where literally your courses were, you would learn some theory and then you would literally go into a hospital to practice what you had learned. I mean, that really speaks to how Thai massage is valued clearly in Thailand, and it's a medical.
It's a medical. Well, you know also, and something that people don't talk about, every single hospital in Thailand has a medical masseuse who's on staff. And when you have anything that goes wrong with you, if you're Thai, not if you're a foreigner, you will see the medical masseuse. So you have a heart attack, after you've had all your stuff, you go and see the medical masseuse. This is also funny. When they choose a medical masseuse, they always choose an ugly girl. So they find an ugly Thai girl, because an ugly girl is not going to get married and she's not going to run off. So
Wow.
if you get an ugly girl, she will stay in the job. And this is how a lot of the women who nowadays are masters, or I consider them masters in Thailand, are these medical masseuse women who've worked for 40, 60 years massaging people who have heart attacks or stroke or had their leg cut off or had a terrible injury. And these women are old, and they're phenomenal. And they often started training when they were 10 or 12, and they've been working for 40, 50, even 60 years. I know one lady, but and these people have the knowledge in their hand is just unreal.
And have you trained with them in some way, or received massage from them, or massage?
That's part of the reason why. That's part of the reason why I live in Thailand. I started. I was invited to become a teacher through the Asokananda group, because I did a couple of courses with Asokananda, and he didn't know half of the stuff that I knew. So he wanted me to come to Thailand and show him some of my stuff, and I wanted to become a teacher as well, because I wanted to share a lot of the stuff that I had.
This was in the 90s?
That was in 90s, 2000, yeah, close to, right at the end of the 90s. And so, yes, I started teaching for him and his group.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, I was in Thailand every year. And so as part of being there, it's like I want to be studying with somebody. And so I would always find somebody that I could train with. Maybe there was a specialist in birthing children, or a specialist in toxin, or a specialist in cancer, or stomach issues, or whatever it was. And then I could just go down and train with them. And when you turn up, if you know how to, a lot of Thailand is about rituals, and you've got to bring the right flowers and the right gifts and say the right things and weigh and bow and know the right prayers. Once you understand all of that and you're really prepared to do all of that, when you turn up and you present yourself correctly, they will know the right prayers and answers back to your stuff. And then they pretty much just let you get on with it. So they'll, like my current one, I'm working with a woman who works only with bone cancer, and she's a toxin specialist, and she...
Can you just say, what's that word you're saying, toxin?
Toxin is a hammer and chisel, and it works like a TENS unit. You know, when you put an electric TENS unit, boof, 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 into a muscle.
Okay.
So toxin is like a TENS unit, and it's very Lana style, so it's very northern style. And you get a hammer that's made from teak, and you get a chisel. And we use it mostly for things like when you have really big blocks that can't be released, where the person is not emotionally sensitive. So if I've got a scar, is a really good idea. So say somebody's had a big injury and they've got a scar, and the tissue's really tight. You use toxin, and it's about a rhythm and a sound that goes into the body, and it softens tissue. It's a terrific technique. I mean, for stuff like the trap, you know, if you've got somebody who's constantly going back up like this, 3-4 minutes, and this thing is back.
Amazing.
So it's a very like toxin, Luc Precom, so compress. These are kind of really typically Thai, northern Thai stuff that you find. Really easy to learn and super duper effective. But this lady that I work with, she only takes clients who have been told by their doctor they're going to die, go home. And so they end up with her. And it's ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I mean, it's not sterile. There's a dog and a cat and a baby crawling around the floor, and people are coming in with open wounds, and she toxins them. And one of my jobs in the morning would be, I take off they put zinc, like pure zinc, they put straight onto this area where they've done, here's another one, grasha, grasha, where they use the bone and they scrape on the skin. It's a Chinese, grasha is they use a bone and they scrape the skin. And where
What kind of bone is this that they're using?
Buffalo horn and buffalo femur.
Okay.
And they scrape the skin, and what happens is where you have blocks, it comes up very red. And then with that, then they put the zinc onto this, and this is showing where the damage is from the cancer. Mm-hmm. So in the mornings when the people would come, I'd take off the patches, and it almost looked like mincemeat, where like really low quality mincemeat, like chunks of fat and meat sitting on the outside of the skin. I have to scrape that off. Okay. And that was considered to be really nasty. And I had to put that in a special place. And then I come back in and do toxin, and then put patches on them again, a bit of grasha, and then we'd see them tomorrow. This woman had the most ridiculous success rate on people who were nearly dead. And this funny little place, and almost impossible to find. You had to kind of go down a main road and find a canal, and then look for a shop with an old lady who pats an orange cat, and drive down to the goat. If the goat's not there, you'll see a big wheel if you go 5 miles the wrong way. And then you find this place, and there's just a ton of people hanging around there and getting better.
Right. Wow, that is just amazing.
This is the fun. I mean, this is why I live there. Is because once I started to teach, what had happened was a lot of the masters in Chiang Mai started to die. So there was a kind of a funky time when it was getting very popular for Westerners to study Thai massage, but all the masters were dying out. And so it was this interesting time when I got invited to come back to Thailand and work for one of the schools and set up their programs and start to write manuals so the knowledge wouldn't be lost. And also to teach some of the Thai people, because there'd been this gap. Thai massage was uncool for young people to do until very recently. And so as Westerners have made it, popularized it, young people now want to do it. But when I was training, it would have been like, I don't know, going to Harlem and picking the hottest black guy and saying, we're going to teach you how to crochet tea cozies and you're going to love it. So there was this kind of hole that I was also lucky enough to fill. So I got to go back and teach some of the knowledge that I've been holding, and I got to pop that stuff back.